This week on RSBANDB Update, we take a step back from training in PVM before Ode of the Devourer arrives to talk about Treasure Hunter. We address the problems with Treasure Hunter, what it accomplishes or not, and why it's so difficult to remove or fix RuneScape's gambling simulator. This is RSBANDB Update, episode 1003, recorded Thursday, September 12th, 2024. No tokens in the hole. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of RSBANDB Update this week. We don't have much RS news to discuss per se. We're going to discuss one of the topics that's been bubbling to the top recently in the community. I'll inform you guys what that is in just a moment, but Tanis, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Shane. He says bubble, more like violently eruption from time to time. This is like a St. Helens.
Yeah, and that's why I just want to get through the intro quickly first before we surprise anybody with that. But Pernasius is also here. Welcome back to you.
G'day, thank you to having me again.
Yep, of course. And I also do want to give a quick thank you to our experienced tier Patreon members for whom without RSBANDB Update would not be possible. This week, that's Amos Reed, Andrew C., Bladecom, Drama Free, Jason S., Jesse W., Kesky, Lemon Lodge, Mr. T., Ricky A., Rippeth, Runestar, The Naked Captain, Tim, and Truth Ray. Big, huge thank you to everybody who supports us on Patreon. More about our Patreon offerings a little bit later on the podcast. But if you do want to follow along and see what this topic is, head on over to update.show. Full show notes can be found there. You can also, of course, join our Discord over at update.show/Discord. And we do have the Friends chat in-game at BitsBytes as well. But, we've been kind of dancing around this one since the beginning. But we thought it would be time to talk a little bit about Treasure Hunter this week.
Bum, bum, bum.
Because there was that survey that came from Mod Pips in pertaining to player value and monetization, but nobody's really discussed what comes after that. Why Treasure Hunter's bad in a nuanced way, which we hope to do, and what Treasure Hunter does for the game. So we're going to look into all of that. But before we go that way, just a quick reminder that coming Monday is the newest quest in the game, Ode of the Devourer, that will be required, and I underscore will be required, to unlock the skilling boss that comes in the subsequent week. You need to have done Soul Searching and Requiem for a Dragon. So if you want to get in on that skilling boss business when it arrives, in about a week and a half from the time that you're hearing this, you do need to do Ode of the Devourer, and we will, of course, have the full Quest Week coverage on that next week on the podcast. But that aside, Treasure Hunter. How do we want to start this? Do we want to just start with how we, feel about it going in? I think that's probably a good place to begin. Tanis, where are you at with Treasure Hunter in 2024?
Where I am at is I don't have as much of a problem with Treasure Hunter, I think, as a lot of people do. I believe basically in that dynamic of time versus money. And I don't have a lot of issues with Treasure Hunter. A lot of the stuff that I do have issues with, we're going to talk about later, really don't relate to the concept of its existence or not, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Basically, the way I'll summarize that is that it's not the fact that we have Treasure Hunter, it's the fact that Treasure Hunter exists in game and does certain things, and there's things it could do better, I think, is a good way of putting that. How about you, Pern?
Yeah, I mean, I really don't care. It's there. I do my dailies, free ones, and I mean, basically now that I'm 200 mil all, everything gets converted to oddments. I mean, it's a very unpopular opinion, but I preferred the old squeal. It was just that nice basic spin and away you go. Some of these ones get very convoluted, and I yeah, I just can't be bothered. It's there. It's something to click on, get my 3 free keys, and away I go.
Okay. And as for me, I could play the game without Treasure Hunter. I could play the game with Treasure Hunter. And the thing that I have to say that my issues are with it is that we are increasingly living in an era of video game monetization that is competing for people's time and money. And because of that, Treasure Hunter needs to provide a good value proposition for RuneScape players. And the issue, I think, comes in both whether you are for Treasure Hunter or against Treasure Hunter, is that you feel that if you are against Treasure Hunter, that Treasure Hunter is, in effect, removing the value from the XP and the game that you play. I think that's one side of the coin, is that it devalues what you have in game. Some people will say it devalues achievements that you make. It also, in effect, as some people would say, makes things easier as well. And I think that's one aspect of it. But I think the other thing that needs to be talked about is the fact that, we're dealing with a world where you can, literally pull up your phone, open up a mobile video game, and then a couple of clicks and taps later, you've just spent, $15, $20 on a DLC purchase directly from your phone. And it's a much more transparent and easier way of gaining access to those monetized goods than what you have in Treasure Hunter. And then you combine that with all the uncertainty that comes with what's going to be happening with Treasure Hunter, primarily in European countries, in relation to, loot box gambling and odds and all that, the uncertainty that arises in that. Treasure Hunter has the potential, I think, to be Jagex's ball and chain. And we've already seen that in a way that it's continually the thing, their monetization path, that they continually hurt themselves with, I think. I think that's
calling. Are you calling Treasure Hunter the wife of RuneScape?
No.
Oh, no.
What?
You said the ball and chain.
Oh, wow.
What?
That's true. That's true. It could be.
Your wife is referred to as the ball and chain.
In what context?
That's
as a colloquialism,
I've never heard that before.
Haven't you?
No.
That's a big one over here. The old ball and chain.
No, I have never heard that before. But the point I'm trying to make with it is that it's a hindrance and it holds Jagex back for all those reasons listed, from dealing with the uncertainty in European markets and also just the player's perception of it, I think, as well. And I think what we first wanted to address with this is just to look at some of the things that we see as problems with Treasure Hunter in this day and age that we have here. One of the things I think that definitely first comes up is that very aspect of blind chance and pending regulation in certain parts of the world. We know Jagex experimented a bit with trying to dial down the blind chance, and that you would in effect get to pick what reward that you got, even on the most standard of Treasure Hunter promos. And they moved away from that. So that tells me that it probably wasn't all that popular, and they didn't get as high of engagement as they would have liked on that. And I always ask people when I see them if they're against Treasure Hunter, if the chance element, if removing the chance element from it would help their case, or let's just say their immersion in it. And I honestly feel like it's a 50-50 shot if people would be made to feel better if there was no blind chance. What do you guys think about blind chance?
Well, I hate blind chance, really. I don't like that at all. But like I said, I kind of believe in the concept of being able to purchase stuff. I think if someone is against Treasure Hunter, they're probably against it for other reasons than just that. that's an addition. To me, it's something that is just structurally wrong and bad. I'd much rather, like we've discussed before, have some kind of currency that odd mints, whatever it may be, and actually purchase the things that I want.
So that you don't need to go through that process of, clicking and waiting to see what you get, you would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. And see, that's something I find really interesting, because I feel like this factors into so many different things here, is that you can say it's the chance, right? Like, you can say it's the fact that there's the chance of getting whatever, the current cosmetic reward promo is, that's up there at, 0.8% or whatever they put it at. That's one aspect of it. And they've tried different things, I think, to get those reward items into players' hands after the fact. But I think what it comes down to, specifically with the chance stuff, and the thing that makes the wheel turn, so to speak, I guess, to go back to your Squeal of Fortune analogy, it's that you don't know what you're going to get going into it. So you don't know whether that $20 you put in is going to provide you all the XP that you want or were expecting to get, or if you're going to need to put another 20 in to get what you actually wanted, if you're going for XP.
Or you could end up with nothing. I mean, if you're going for XP, you're going to get XP. You're going to get some. The amount may vary. You might want.
And there's certain promos that are better for XP, which we'll talk about after.
Right, but if you were going for an item, you could end up with nothing. I mean, you really could.
Yeah.
You think going dry at a boss is bad? Going dry on treasure hunter is twice as bad.
Like, what if you spend $250 on keys and you don't get what you want? What are you left to do in that case?
You'd be really pissed off.
Right.
Yeah. And that's why
then you got to explain to your wife why there's a $250 charge on the card.
Yeah. And that's why I said, I think it was for the Orange Halloween Mask I first said that, or maybe it was a different one. If you really want this thing that's on Treasure Hunter, just buy the bonds, convert those to GP, and then buy it off the exchange. That way, then you know what your price is going to be.
Exactly.
Yep.
And I feel like that's the easy thing to do, but maybe it's the bad thing to say. Because what that is in effect doing is it's providing a cover for that chance-based argument.
Well, it's not providing a cover, but if that is the item that you want and you're happy to, to drop $50 on it, well, buy $50 worth of bonds rather than $50 worth of keys.
Right. But we also have to talk about value in that too, and that $50 is not going to get you a promo item unless you are very lucky. I forget what the numbers were, but one of the most egregious ones was last year's Halloween masks.
Mm-hmm.
You remember the outrage with that necromancy one? That made
for that skull.
Yeah, the skull. That's what I'm talking about. That had rarities to it that were so rare that I think it was worked out that even if you bought like the biggest package of 400 keys multiple times over, you still had, a very small, 15 to 20% chance of actually getting it. I think that's what it worked out to.
Yeah, I think it was four lots of the 450 packs, and you still only had, as you said, a 15% chance.
Which, and see, that's the thing that I wanted to get into with this, is that we can say blind chance when you're spending, $20 or $40, right? In terms of getting some XP. But what does that say? What does that chance say? And I know, Pern, you're a bit of a gambler in real life.
No, I only play poker.
Real life.
That's not gambling.
Oh, you don't put real money in your poker?
Yeah. But poker is more of a skill game than long term. A good poker player will come out ahead. It's not like the poker machines where you just sit there, the one-armed bandits, and push buttons and hope for.
Whereas
for
you don't know.
okay.
I don't know enough about the game to say whether or not that's true.
Yeah.
Based on the numbers behind it, but okay.
Yeah. It is gambling, but it's not as big a gamble as some of the other
gambling.
stuff. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And see,
that's what I mean.
And see, that's the thing. That's the argument you can always make. Is this healthier? Is it healthier for somebody to gamble on this than slot machine gambling. I think that's a matter of perception.
This really is slot machine gambling, because you don't know a skill-based gambling game. If you are a good player, you are eventually going to come out ahead. With this type of gambling, it is pure luck. It is RNG totally. There is no skill base around it. It is just it's the Hazelmere's ring. You get lucky or you don't.
And see, that's the thing of what I was saying, is that it doesn't make much of a difference for $20 or $40 and a little bit of XP here and there to get you, to your next level milestone if that's what you want to do. But when you extrapolate that out, like we said multiple times over, the 450 key pack last Halloween, and you look at the money that goes into that and what that means in terms of, blind gambling, sure, you can make an argument about whether or not that's healthy. But at the same time, when you look at these odds out there, what Jagex puts out with that really does make a statement that say, hey, this is unfortunately what you're going to have to spend to get this item. We realize that, the vast majority of you won't get this, but lo and behold, happy Halloween, take your chance. And I do know, I was approached by people in the community after that event that basically said that coming from a family that had seen, gambling addiction and whatnot, what Jagex did with this promo is just not healthy given the magnitudes and the amount of money that were involved.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
And
totally agree on that one.
And I realize, folks will say it took a while to get to this point, but we kind of had to lay the groundwork about how, it might not matter when it's $20 to $40 and a few laps here or there, but when it's a big promo like we saw last Halloween, that is what, in effect, sets the sentiment for Treasure Hunter going forward. And I think once you do that with your offering, with your, we'll just call it, a microtransaction-based gambling loot simulator, I'll say, after you set that sentiment, that mark, I don't think you can return from that in terms of sentiment.
No. And I mean, in that type of promotion, I mean, if you've bought 450 key pack, which is what, $200, $250, whatever they are,
something like that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you don't get it in that time, it should be a guaranteed one on your last key.
Right, and that's where we get to what the alternative to this blind chance stuff is, hey, here's a grace where you're going to, have a higher chance of getting it after X amount of keys, or we're just going to give it to you after, that many. Like, if, for example, that's what World of Tanks does with their tank lock boxes. Yeah, they have those in that game. If you don't get the vehicle after 50 boxes, you just get it off the bat. And it works out at the end of the day to what one of the higher costing, premium vehicles would have paid, or would have cost rather. So it's weird that they never went that way with this for Treasure Hunter. I do have to say so myself. I wonder if that would, help allay concerns, or if it would just be seen by the players as more of a, hey, you guys did this, you own it now, sort of thing.
No, but I think in that regard, I mean, you're always going to have your naysayers. You're always going to have the people out there who, get the faux outrage going and say, oh, they're making you pay $250 for this item. But I mean, no, because you still have that luck chance in there. They're just saying, hey, if you do have bad luck and after 400 keys, your 450 keys, whatever the pack is, you haven't got it, that is really bad luck. We're just going to let you have it. So, and
that's how it should be for cosmetics, in my view.
Yeah, I think that would go a long way to the majority of players of making it more acceptable.
By the way, $120 for 450 keys US.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm probably thinking Australian work, so I know it's over $200 Australian dollars.
Yeah. Apparently, they also expire 12 months after they were bought if you don't use them.
Oh wow!
Yeah. Oh,
Hey,
man.
tell me if you buy a 450 key pack and you've got like your Premier Club where you get do you still get your three free a day, or do you have to use all those 450 before they kick back in?
You have to use your 450 before you can use the three free.
Wow.
Yeah, so if you buy like even any key pack, you don't get to touch the daily ones until after that.
But do they still gather up, or do you just lose them until you've got rid of the other ones?
Oh yeah, they gather up.
That's okay then.
Yeah. So, and that brings us, I think, to player sentiment on this, and I feel like, you know, the three of us here, Mark, as people who are either for Treasure Hunter or just, you know, okay with it existing, but I do know out there that there are a lot of people whose red line in the sand is Treasure Hunter, and we saw this in the player value survey.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who see RS3 as poisoned, and they wouldn't even bother trying the game unless it was like a fresh start server. If Treasure Hunter was to be removed, that's how some people see it. So, my big thing out of all of this, what we saw last Halloween, what we saw with Hero Pass, and what we're seeing now with the player value survey stuff, is I don't think that player sentiment can be salvaged on this. I don't.
No, I think it's a trust issue.
Yeah.
And I don't think people trust that they're going to get it right. That being said, what is right? Because, you know,
the money has to come in somewhere.
The money has to come in somewhere, but I don't feel like my opinion is more valid than someone who, you know, is against Treasure Hunter for, you know, whatever. But at the same time, I feel like we should see RuneScape when it comes to achievements. I've always thought you should see it as an individual game.
Yeah, because, you know, the high scores only matter for the first week of a new skill at this point.
Yeah, look, when it comes to anything competition wise, I am right with the people that wouldn't want Treasure Hunter, right? I wouldn't want that in a competition. But
that's why we stopped Skill of the Month, in addition to people being 200 mil, is that you can just throw whatever you want on it, right?
Right. And so, like, you know, that's where I would draw the line, right? But otherwise, like, I just have never understood what it matters to Pern's 120 all that I spent $50 because I hate Hunter, and had to, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just, I've never understood that connection.
No, I totally agree with you on that.
I feel like it comes down to the fact that if you're looking at then, you know, I'll say you're looking at a 99 cape. In this case, let's be real, a 120 cape. I think one thing that people always say is that, well, how do I know that 120 cape is real? That you have. How do I know that 120 Hunter cape is real?
But that's like life, man. Like, how do I know your dad didn't get you the job? How do I know you didn't get an inheritance of $400 million? How do I know those are real? They're playing the part.
Because, I mean, you know, yeah, okay. Even if you've done, you know, what, 10 mil, 20 mil via lamps, that's still a fair bit of money you've dropped into the game that's financing a game that I can keep playing. You want to drop $100 to buy some XP? Go for it, because that pays the wages of the people who are developing the game to bring out my next update. I don't care.
Yeah.
As you said, there's no competition anymore. I mean, I hit 200 mil all. I'm still only like 4,000th in the game.
And you know, I honestly would love to see, and they don't show these anymore, I would love to see what the breakdown is for money in terms of how much money on the RS3 side comes from monetization and from subscriptions, combined with the subscription stuff on the old school side. Now, it all goes into the same Jagex pot, but the question is, with that, then you can trace some of those pennies that come back in from the RS3 monetization of funding old school.
I think, yeah, and that is always an interesting
because
exercise.
it's a corporation that develops 2 games. The fact you put $5 in on RS3 doesn't mean it stays on the RS3 side.
Yeah, well, no, of course not. And you know, and even when you think about bringing the money in, if we didn't have this, and look, there are plenty of ways to improve it. Number one, let's just make it what it is, and not content, right? Just
Yes.
just straight up, this is what it is. That would be helpful. Yeah.
Oh, I get that. I get that. And I think that, again, factors into the sentiment side of it, is that, you know, the players have been sold the bridge too far many times, where they've been told that there's going to be new content, but lo and behold, it's something that has a micro-transaction element to it. Whether it be, you know, a week where the Treasure Hunter promo plays main stage in the news post, whether it be last year's Halloween event, which had a significant amount of monetization in it, whether it be, you know, those hunt events like the Raziel and Vorkath hunt events we had, or the Eladinis one that's coming in a week and a half with the quest. If you look at the calendar, all of those things could potentially have a monetization element to them.
Yeah.
And it's a question of where that lands in terms of game content, right? But
absolutely,
I'm going to say that maybe then this falls on the actual RS3 side then, or rather the content team's part.
But they're missing...
Because we've had, you know, many cases of what I'll call mismanagement, where we've had, you know, weeks and months of, you know, no update periods or very small, light periods earlier this year. And that's made it seem like Treasure Hunter was the sole content in the game for the people who are anti-Treasure Hunter, because, you know, that's what they see. I'm not saying that's an invalid point of view, but that's what they see.
And at the same time, I feel like the things that they did put on offer, people were not sought after, right? If you want people to spend money, and you want people to be okay with spending money, give them something that they want. So your XP promos are always gonna be popular. They're always gonna make you money.
Remember the controversy with the dies?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now that one at least people wanted it, but like I don't know. I don't
Half the
feel
people
like
wanted it.
Well, half of the people. And then they had to fix. Yeah, we know about the die, but here's what I'm saying. If you there's a sweet spot. Let's say, you know, and when we bring this up a lot, but I think it's a good example. The way they did Fresh Start and what was available as a reward, right? There were certain rewards that were only available early on.
The inverted capes.
But the inverted cape, the thing that was the most sought after the competition time, you could. And we did.
Yeah. Also, there was
because
the purple halo,
them.
which you could do.
Right, but those things from early on, like the world first and stuff like that, you couldn't. Right, so it had both components of the earned achievement and, you know, the other thing that you still had to earn, but you know you could you know get your bonus XP and stuff, but people wanted those capes, like, and I don't know what the answer to that is. What do people want right now in that regard, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but I don't think they've wanted this stuff that much. I can't imagine that these promos have actually done all that well, which is maybe why we're seeing this what seemed to be out of nowhere discussion come up, because they're like, oh, this isn't really working right now. Who knows?
Yeah, because I mean, look, we'll talk about lucrative promos after and go through them and why they are. But one of the ones that always comes to mind is the Smoldering Lamp promos. It's because it prints XP, and The question is, if you keep pumping that much XP into game and you combine that with double XP, at what point does that lose its value for people who are already at a high enough level?
But see, here's the thing with the double XP. There's too many double XPs, and there used to be there was a different atmosphere. People were willing to participate in those promos. Maybe even save up to participate in a promo because they were going to be doing some double XP. The problem now is there's just so many that if I don't do it this time, maybe I'll do it next time. Maybe I'll catch the next one.
Yeah.
Whatever.
This coming double XP that'll be happening in November-ish will be the first one I'm using since I maxed. Or, well, I used the Necromancy one a bit this past February, but I'll definitely be using it for 110 mining and smithing when it comes. And, I mean, I'm already planning up for that to the point where I'm just, doing dailies. I'll probably get 110 mining by then, but after that, it's just, going to be, use the 10 special and make, what was it, Burial 3 or Burial 4 or something to that effect, and get that for insane XP on double XP and call it a day. But you're right. We don't need that. We don't need the XP, I think, as much as well, because it's becoming saturated. And that gets again to the point about why the promos have got so egregious, I think.
Yeah, and
in the player sentiment angle lane of it, rather.
And I still think there are solutions for having that much XP in the game. They're, at the end of the day, it's just numbers, right? Like I still don't understand why we couldn't add a decimal or whatever that whole deal is.
Yeah, here's the deal. Here's the deal on that in a minute or less. So the maximum size of a 32-bit integer is about 2.1 billion, right? So what they did is they factored that down by 10 to make room for a decimal. So as a result of that, the maximum integer size of XP in the game for a single skill is about 210 mil. So they just capped it at 200 mil because that last invisible digit there is your decimal point for your XP.
But we've moved away from a 32-bit to 64-bit now. It doesn't support 32-bit anymore.
That's in terms of specifically memory addressing and what your computer and the engine is able to address. That doesn't have any impact on the size of the variables in the client that they use. And the bigger aspect of that is how they're storing this in their database, because increasing a database size like that from something that is storing a 32-bit integer up to a 64-bit integer, or even something with decimal points, real decimal points on the end of it, you're talking, for the amount of data that they store, that is a huge operation to do that you don't know if you can do safely, and it's potentially also very expensive to do in terms of raw storage.
Okay, fair enough.
From a technical point of view, yeah.
But do they have to do the factor of 10?
Well, that decision was made back when RS2 came out to add a decimal point to it.
But what if you took the decimal point away? Like, would that open it up?
Yes, maybe, but I don't know how the system works internally. You would, in theory, have to chop off everybody's last decimal inside that database for everywhere XP is stored.
Well, that probably wouldn't work out well.
It would be a very complicated thing to do.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, granted.
I don't know how it works, but I'm already thinking in the most simplistic form of using a 32-bit integer to store something with a decimal in it. I'm already thinking that I don't want to be messing around with that.
Okay, then. Let's look at it like this. At the end of the day, we all end up in the same place then, right? So, it's the difference between if you went and you built your house with your own two hands, and you cut down the trees, and you made the planks, and you built every last thing yourself. Or you hired some framers, you hired some electricians, you hired some plumbers, but you knew how to do some drywall, so you hung some drywall and stuff, you know. You kind of did the stuff that you knew how to do. At the end of the day, you both have houses. You're both proud of your houses. My property value doesn't affect yours. Unless you're a homemade piece of shit.
That is something I can't answer because I don't have enough of a stake in the no side of the treasure hunter debate to be able to answer that.
I mean, I guess that's true. I mean, that is true. And I don't know. It's hard. I can see why.
Like, we see why people don't like it, right?
Yeah.
From the ethical concerns to the money to the predatory nature of it as
those things.
We see all that, and we get it.
Yeah, those arguments, yes.
It's just the personal angle that's always a little bit difficult in that regard to kind of thread the needle on.
Yeah, actually, you're right. I mean, that's true. That kind of explains it, because those things to me are different. Like, I understand those reasons. That's not usually the reason I hear from people.
Exactly, because it is it just like any issue that you discuss in this day and age, it is abstracted behind a whole load of emotion, internet memes, and oversimplification that prevents people from accurately displaying how they feel on the internet. Because I'm fairly certain there's a lot of issues that I'm fairly certain on. If I sit down with somebody face to face, not over the internet, face to face, I can convince them one way or another on. Which I've done a few times with you, Tanis, on various things.
Yeah, well, I like to think that I'm somewhat open-minded.
Yeah.
It's
yeah,
like
it requires it's both lanes.
It's like my Nike Air Ones that my son bought me from Bali for $50, and the guy down the road's got his that he bought in a legitimate shop for $400. I mean, they look the same, they do the same thing, but ultimately mine aren't going to undervalue his.
Exactly.
That's a fun way of putting it. I'm going to thank some Patreon supporters in relation to value. Then we'll move on to something that is an annoyance to us on Treasure Hunter, a real annoyance. But before we get there, I want to thank this week Alvaro L., Amos Reed, Andrew C., Arviz L., Bladecom, Brayton K., Chilbura, Dominic R., Drama Free, Duramax, Gila Fleur, Jacob G., Jade Gizmo, Jason S., Kesky, Jesse W., Lemon Lodge, Luminos, Mongrath, Parnassius, Ricky A., Rippeth, Robbie D., Runestar, Samuel FL, Scott DS, Shirtpants, Sky, Tabby, Targaryen, Tevis, The Naked Captain, The Dabbing Goat, Tim, Ukulele Steve, Woody, Zant, and Zazakon. Big, huge thank you to everybody out there for supporting us. The Patreon episode 1000 things have been out for about a week, and I've got the first reports of a few of them arriving already, so do be watching the mailbox if you're an insider or experienced tier subscriber on that. But if you're not, you can join for as little as $1 a month, and with that you gain access to an entire back catalog of monthly bits, which gives you the ability to vote on our monthly bit, which is a bonus show where we talk about one particular thing or another. This past month, we did the quest tier list, or rather the desert quest tier list, because that's where the story is going next. So if you're interested in seeing that, you can head on over to patreon.com/RSBANB and sign up for as little as $1 a month to gain access to that entire catalog of bonus shows. We've also done other ones in the past, like a discussion about Legacy Mode Combat. We've done ones on tier lists for Dailyscape. We've done ones on starting PVM. We've done all sorts of monthly bits out there. It's basically become a show of its own. So if you're at all interested in more RSBNB update, that's the surefire way to get it. Patreon.com/RSBNB for as little as $1 a month. We also do have the VIP tier where for $3 a month you can gain access to a special chat channel that is for you and other Patreon members. You also get a rank on Discord, and in addition to that, you get high-quality stereo versions of the podcast. And, of course, we also do have our experience tier where for $5 a month you will receive a shout-out on the podcast each and every week and receive exclusive access to the clips that we use to make the clip show at the end of the year. And, of course, a big, huge thank you to all of our Patreon members for supporting us and allowing us to do what we do here each and every week. It really does mean the world to us. Thanks so much, everyone. Patreon.com/RSBNB.
Thanks all.
All right. So, let's talk about some issues with actual treasure hunter promotions out there, because we've been talking a lot about player sentiment and blind chance and regulation, but one thing that has always got me about Treasure Hunter in particular is that it feels like a lot of the challenges, or no, sorry, not challenges, Treasure Hunter gameplay aspects that are out there, it feels like I'm playing a different game. It feels
annoying.
like I need to learn how to play the promo, which if I was looking to get a cosmetic reward or XP, I would just stop, because I don't want to learn how to play one of these promos, and I just find them a little bit confusing.
I just want to click and get my reward and walk away.
Like, I'm going to give you some examples. Assassin's Return, I don't like calculating how many of each, friggin' little animal you need on the side. I still don't understand how the gemfall mechanic works entirely with this. I think that's a little bit overcomplicated. And I think the most egregious one that we saw recently in terms of, making it clear about what you're going to get, and maybe this is the problem with this one about what you were going to get, was the Raising Rituals one. I didn't necessarily see where that was going.
Hated that one.
I don't like any of these. I mean, to me, it'd be better. I know we were talking about it's not good to have a slot machine, but I mean, it is what it is, and I would rather just do that.
Yeah.
Right? Just flip my switch, spin my wheel, whatever.
And let me give you another example of this. If you look at lockboxes from other games, like when Rocket League had them, or now, World of Tanks, that's another game I will play somewhat frequently, or Star Trek Online, all you do to interact with their system is you get the lockbox in your inventory and the key in your inventory, and then you just spam click that box. What's to say that Treasure Hunter could not be that simple?
It could, but it's like, I mean, I don't want to hurt no one's feelings, but it's like they want it to be fun, but
it's not.
It's not fun.
No.
Like, there are days
it's something
where
there to be done to get something rewarded, but it's not something I'm sitting there going, I'm going to get all interactive with this.
Like, if it's one of these promos that I outlined, and maybe some of the other ones, I don't even bother using my daily keys, because I just feel like it's too cumbersome.
That's what the multiple buttons
I try to click through.
Though.
Yeah, I try to click through as fast as possible, and then I just desperately look for a treasure or something I can click on. I mean, that's what I'm trying to do.
Yep.
And maybe this is the thing that can get Jagex to move on this, is if the stakeholders, the people who, buy the keys, because they're the ones, I hate to say it, who are going to be the determining factor about what happens after Treasure Hunter, it's what will those people interact with more is the big question, I think. So
just put a 3-card Monty game out there.
I'd take it. It's easy. It's simple. I mean,
another thing I think that would, be interesting in terms of just improving the usability behind it is that when it comes time for lamp or star, you get to pick.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's, a protein, you get to pick. which one.
Yeah, that would be nice too.
I'm being 200 mil all now. That type of stuff doesn't bother me. But yeah, it was annoying when I already had invention at 200 mil, and all I was getting was cogs. Or,
well, I mean, you can convert
you can
them.
convert, but I just
it's
put them
not
as oddments.
it's not like a fun reward because you're losing a third of them.
Exactly. But I mean, it even. I didn't like lamps. Although they did get me the 200 mil dungeoneering, but I far preferred stars. I would have loved to have a choice when it comes up. Do you want to take it as a lamp, or do you want to take it as stars?
And we're back to that. And we're back to that choice thing again. By the way, I don't know if you guys realize that.
But that's it. But that's what that's what you want. You want to have a choice. You want. But I mean, Assassin's Return didn't bother me so much. But the Gemfall and the Raising Rituals, they were just. I just clicked multiple and just click, collect the rewards, get out of there as quick as I could. Didn't even read what the rules were.
Yeah. So just to recap on Gemfall for people who don't use it or don't remember it. Normal treasure hunter chests are replaced by a single chest that requires keys to open, and at all times there will be a bonus which is notified by the number and the color of the gems on the chest. So any time that chest is open, there's a chance for the chest, or rather the gems, to break, causing the bonus to be re-rolled. This chance starts at 25 to 70% depending on the active bonus, and goes up by the initial chance with each key used, and resets every time the gems break. Now, every 5th time that the gems break, that triggers a gemfall that enables the players to choose 2 out of the 6 prizes without using extra keys.
I'm already confused.
And see, that's the thing. How do you put this in front of the player without having them, read all the onboarding? And my point is, to Jagex, is that you're losing money when you're having people read onboarding for this.
Mm-hmm.
You should not have to read onboarding for something that people are spending this amount of money on.
No, because we're just trying to get to the items, and
Yes.
And I can't help to think that, look, they do spend time. They do create this stuff, and I just think that
there's a team behind it.
Yeah, that would be better suited towards actual content.
And that's what the players think.
Yes.
And here we are. We got back to the same point. 3 people who are relatively okay with Treasure Hunter because we're being asked to read things and onboard things, when in reality, if you just gave, in the case of this week, you just gave a rainbow lockbox that gave either rainbow dust or the rainbow, trail thing, and you just let people randomly click on it, that'd be far more engaging. Or giving extra things instead of Gemfall. Or, in the case of the Necromancy one, just having it be, rather than Raising Rituals, just have it be a general Necromancy lockbox that you open with the chance of getting these.
Yeah, think about it. Like, all of these Treasure Hunter, promos and stuff, it's almost like they're made for,
they're mini games.
Well, I was going to say, it's almost like they're made for questers, like they're little puzzles. But questers don't need Treasure Hunter.
You know what it's reminiscent of, and I think it's reminiscent of the gambling mini games that you find in mobile apps. I think that's what they're going for with it. The gacha games, right? So,
and just bring out a bloody mobile. Bring out RuneScape Mogul, where you build up your own farm and then you build up a smithy and just build through that way.
They did that kind of once, and they let it go. But I played it. I'd play it again. I like the idle games.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my biggest gripe with this whole thing. Is that there have been cases and promos where I would have wanted to put money into it, but I didn't because I didn't like the promo behind it.
Mm-hmm.
You liked the reward, but not the way it got there.
Exactly. So I just friggin' bought the thing on the Grand Exchange.
Yep.
In particular, the one I'm talking about, was Academy of Heroes with fungal swiftness. I didn't want to go through the whole thing of fighting these things on Treasure Hunter and having a chance of not getting the fungal swiftness override. So I just went out and bought the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if it would have been a lot simpler, they would have got, $20 to $50 from me.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I don't
Frank.
say that often. Like, it was one of the few promos I would have put money into.
Yeah. I mean, I never put money into the promos. I'll use the keys that I get, and I'll occasionally, if I've got oddments, I'll buy keys if it's a promo I like.
Oh, that's another thing. They nerfed the oddments this year, so you can't do that.
Yeah, exactly. But there was one where you had you were getting these little tokens. You needed 9 tokens for the top and 8 tokens for the bottom and all that type of stuff. I mean, hey, I
was one short on the Raziel event earlier
yeah,
this year,
and
I'm waiting for it to come
type
back.
Of things. Yeah, I don't mind those type of things, but let me also earn those tokens in game somehow.
Yes, that is another thing that they
tie it into gameplay. The best treasure hunter promos are the ones they tie into gameplay, like the Christmas one where we can earn the Christmas paper and all that type of stuff. Tie them in together so it at least looks like it's part of the game, not just, here's our money grab for today.
But then you're back to the point of treasure hunters content.
Yeah, but that's fine. If they do it where you are doing it in game, that's fine. But when they're sort of, as content, when we're talking about that, it's where you have to read rules and understand the play and go for these percentages and spend this amount of dust here and that amount of dust there. And I don't want to do that part.
Like currency gathering and bingo cards, it don't have the same feel. Like, I don't know. They don't have the same feel. It doesn't feel like you're trying to figure something out. You're just hacking things off of a list.
And this is the biggest reason, again, despite the ethical things, despite people not liking XP coming into the game, it's this thing where you have money that's left on the table from people like us who aren't buying. That is, I think, the biggest reason that Treasure Hunter needs to change.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, it's not serving anybody. If you can't use it for what you want to use it for, if you're not providing the items that people either want to buy or XP is special enough to continue to keep wanting it, I guess you could phrase it like that, right? I mean, to me, it's still special. I'm still going to buy it, but maybe other people don't. So if it's a matter of maximizing your sales. But,
and for someone like me who's now maxed everything, I mean, there's
what's
point
the
to Treasure Hunter at all.
mm-hmm.
I mean, I still do it, and everything just gets converted to oddments because occasionally there's something okay on the oddments store.
Yeah.
But to see, there's another reason why you should have things like Prestige. Get me back into Treasure Hunter.
Will that be the point that carries the argument? Because I feel like that's actually significant.
But I mean, then that's where it does start coming into. Well, hang on a sec. You've Prestige, but how much of it was done via that, and how much was done via this? But still, it's my game.
You're not
I want to
helping
play,
anyone.
That.
Right, and I was going to say, dude, if it makes people feel better that I wear a scarlet letter with a big T on my chest, whatever, I don't give a shit.
You run around with you run around with a little yelps over your head.
Yeah, I mean, are we going to give me a Barry Bonds asterisk or something? Whatever, that's cool. Shit, I don't care.
I think somebody suggested that at one point, that people who bought keys and used Treasure Hunter be marked like that.
Hey, mark me. I'm proud. Whatever.
Who cares? Exactly.
But, to sum this section up, it's about the actual implementation of Treasure Hunter in this way that leaves money on the table and makes it so that, some of the promos are just complicated, or it's like, why would I, even bother to do this when there's a simpler way in summing all those sorts of things up? I think that, if anything, is one way that would get Jagex to move and potentially iterate on this. So,
but again, for someone like Tannis, who does, who doesn't, he wants to buy XP, especially with some of the skills that are more difficult to navigate with his eyesight and such. I mean, why not have your own DXP packs on Sullivan's store, or just buy a bunch of stars, or
like if you want to buy 12 hours of double XP, I think they should sell that for direct purchase.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
And you can use it whenever you want.
Exactly.
And then with that, we can make Tannis happy and go back to 2 double XP events a year.
Oh, yes. We just solved it.
And I mean, I'm sorry. I mean,
but we solved it.
I mean, the 10 days to have it is good, but it's lost that. I mean, I used to love preparing for the weekend. Oh, okay, and especially when it was the you started at 2.7 and it slowly went down every 2 hours.
You had to figure out how you're going to do the farm runs and the construction.
I'm going to start.
That's too far. That's too far. I don't want that.
Start with summoning, and then I'm going to move to this, and then and you go, so you're still mixing things around. But I mean, even that, it's just go back to the weekend where this is my weekend. I'm going to plan. I'm not going to sleep. I'm going to, I've got the fast food ready. I've got the sports drinks ready. I'm just going to have a good gaming weekend.
Yeah.
And I think that I really think that Jagex shot themselves in the foot with that survey by not asking about Premier membership, by not asking about double XP Live, by not asking about any other forms of monetization that exist. I feel like the shiny object in the room for that survey was Treasure Hunter, but double XP should have been discussed with that, as should have, non-cosmetic monetization, direct purchase, and all that. All that stuff should have been discussed in there.
Well, and here's what I'm kind of actually more worried about this than anything else, and that is if certain things went out, my subscription could go up. I don't want to pay more on my subscription. No. I give them so much more throughout the year, just there and there. But if I have to pay more in a subscription, I don't know. I feel like I'm less likely to do that.
It doesn't feel like good value for money. Whereas if you just throw a couple of bucks every few months on promotions and things, that's fine. And that's what I mean. That's why having your own, as you said, go back to 1 or 2 DXPs a year and sell packs where people can buy,
12 hours at a
6
time.
6 hours, 12 hours. Yeah, anything like that.
And I mean, they could put a limit on it, to the point where it's
you can buy 1 a month.
Yeah, or something like that. Or, you could...
But it's time to serve the adult player base that plays this game.
Yes.
And stop pretending that it's still 12-year-old kids.
Exactly.
And, I mean, there's an option out there for people who don't want that. It's called old school.
Yeah.
Or it's called, it's called just ignore it, don't play it, or... or have a hard man account, Iron Man account.
Yeah,
hard man account. I want that one.
Let's talk about what Treasure Hunter actually does. Okay, we've been talking about a lot of the problems that it has, but it also does a few things all right. And there are some promos that we want to highlight that we feel have been steps in the right direction for this. That have come out over the last year and a bit. The ones I think that I want to start with in particular is Foresight. Now, this is a promo that is what it says on the tin. When it comes up, you have a choice of 3 things to choose from. You're not forced into choosing any of them. I think this is something that this is what you remember, this is what Treasure Hunter used to be for a while. It used to always be this with the 3 choices, but they reverted that. And I think that if Foresight again became the main Treasure Hunter aspect where you could choose each and every day between 3 items, I think that would probably help in the blind chance category.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there's that one. Another interesting one that happened just recently was the Artisan's Anvil after 110 mining and smithing. And the interesting bit about this one is that you had to choose a blueprint to craft, and you, in effect, completed this by just using keys. It was as simple as that. And there were even some that required a smaller amount of keys to use with that. So the idea behind that is it provided the cosmetic reward to it, which was the frozen, occult, and warped Daemonheim armor pieces, as well as the red primal pickaxe and two-handed sword overrides. So you could just pick which one to go, and all of the other things that you got from Treasure Hunter while these were up were just the standard Treasure Hunter fare, like lamps, wild cards, stars, you name it, standard stuff.
Yeah, I did think this one was done very well.
Yeah, this was a good one. This was a good one. My personal favorite for the year was Artisan's Showdown. And maybe
Soul Showdown.
Yeah, Artisan's Soul Showdown. Did I typo that wrong? No, it was Soul Showdown. Yeah.
No, you just said it. Yeah, Soul.
Okay.
You mixed the two together.
Yeah, I mixed the two up. So this one was one of the ones that gave tokens out, and then you could choose what to buy with those tokens at the end of it. And this one, I'm still waiting for this to come back on, Jagex. I'm one token away from completing the entire item set on the Raziel side on this, and I would very much like this to come back at some point. But the point again, standard stuff on Treasure Hunter, you occasionally get a token, and then you get to choose from that token store what you buy, whether that be the Raziel items on the Soul Reaver side or the Ghoul side. So I think that one was another good one that involved choice too.
Yes. But again, this is a type of thing. These are the ones we're going to run it once a month. The third week in every month we're going to run this. Yeah, that's what these type of things where you can get the tokens and things like that. And it's the Death Sigils and Raziel sigils aren't you can't trade them. They're for yourself only. So there's no harm in running this one sort of on a even if it's every second month.
And see, that's the thing,
on a more regular basis.
I feel like there's also not a lot of predictability in terms of when these things return. Like, we don't know what the schedule is going to be, but for people who are looking for specific cosmetics and whatnot, I think it would be good to have some predictability with that.
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, there used to be, right? Like, before we had so many double XPs, you would have like time to train promos.
Yeah.
That would run before the double XP, right? Where you could get your proteins and, your XP boosters and just different stuff like that.
And from that, I think what we are seeing here is that when Treasure Hunter puts up a choice, or it does something with cosmetics that are guaranteed after X amount of time, but still just, rewards the standard Treasure Hunter items in the meantime, I think those are the good promos because they address that blind chance element to it. And prevent that from becoming too egregious. So.
Yep.
It's also good, dare I say it, in terms of being lucrative for people who just want XP. I know some people out there don't like that, but we all have our lucrative Treasure Hunter promos that we like when they come up.
That's it. And I mean, what people also have to remember, there are some people out there who have full-time jobs and can only sort of spend a few hours a week on the game. If they want to get up there and get their levels up so they can make things and compete with their mates and such and go on raids and things, let them get those spend that money on those keys to get the XP and such.
Yeah, one of mine in that category is the Santa's Grotto.
Yes.
because of, it's always got the Santa hat with it. And you get the paper, which transforms itself into more XP and lamps.
Yep.
So, I personally like the Santa's Grotto ones when those ones come up. And they've run them for so long, too, that when you factor in the paper you get from that and just playing the game, if you are looking to level skills up, buy lamp. That's probably one of the best times to do it. I know we had that experience with Fresh Start.
Well,
what about you, Tanis? Which ones come up on your radar as always being very good for XP for you and the squad?
well, any smoldering event where I think it's been like smoldering volcanoes before, anything that puts the smoldering lamps forward. And then also the rainbow promotion.
Oh, the one that's running right now.
Yeah, and I believe that might have been the introduction of the multiplier, because those are always really good. Anytime you can get any kind of multiplier if you're going for XP, that's nice. And then the time to trains were always ones that I would go for.
Quick question for Tanis. Because you do like those lamps. What did you think when they made the change on the Phoenix lamps, where you get the Phoenix and now it's just an automatic lava lamp, whereas before you got a chance to save the lamp and use it again?
Yeah. I mean, of course, I liked them before. I liked them pre.
Yeah. So where you had the chance for a double lamp, the double Phoenix lamp. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is, I guess they're trying to balance, too powerful, this or that, but we've had that discussion, and so it all that does, in my opinion, is entice me to spend more money. So
interesting.
When you nerf something like that, I'm less excited. I'm not gonna buy it, right? I mean, I don't dislike it or something. I just, that's not as good, and I'm not going to do that one.
And I think the Smoldering Lamps ones, really... No, it's the Phoenix one that they put them in this year. But, there is on the one where the promo runs for the certain promo runs for 4 hours or something. That's when Smoldering can appear this year. But also Phoenix Rising this year is one of those in that regard. And the thing I see with these is that I bet these ones that you highlighted, like the Time to Train and the DXP Dozen and the anything Smoldering or Phoenix, I bet these are their best performing ones, money-wise.
Oh, yeah, have to be.
And my next thing following from that is that it's these kind of promos and what Treasure Hunter is capable of is to why it's so difficult to remove or change. Because you don't know if you're going to be able to scratch that same itch. Which is unfortunate to say, but I think that's the reality. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I think there was a time in a parallel universe in the Kelvin timeline that we could have went a different direction, and it could have looked like the monetization,
Fortnite.
in other places. But almost water under the bridge now, and it's not just this. I mean, it's the structural things, but it's also what we mentioned in the beginning of I just don't think they're ever going to be able to get that trust back. There's a big divide, but between people that are fine and people that don't care, people that hate it. So yeah, how do you fix that?
I don't know. I don't know. I know to do that sort of monetization, that we were talking about based purely on cosmetics, you would need the avatar rework, and you would need the ability to throw out pretty much all the existing models that used to exist in game and just start fresh on all that, which, you know, is a non-starter because people absolutely love the skill capes and how they look right now. Because, you know, that would honestly be the simplest way to do the avatar rework, would be to just throw everything out and say, you know, hey, sorry,
Start again.
we're moving on. You are going to have your old cosmetics, but they're going to look different.
Well, even
which would be dangerous, I think.
But even with the same avatar, if you just give people things that they want, it can still work. You know, like the inverted skill capes.
Oh, God.
And you could still make people want.
I don't think those should go on Treasure Hunter.
Well, no, not on Treasure Hunter, but what I'm saying is, because they were there is the reason that me and my friends bought keys for me.
Oh, so basically things you can get in-game, like those inverted skill capes that enticed you to spend.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. You got to have those motivations.
Outside of cosmetics?
Well, those are, I mean, in a way it is cosmetics, but you're earning it, and, you know, the XP is just, you know, it's stars mostly, and you're still working there. It's just helping you give a little edge.
On that same note, you know what I also think was very lucrative for them, but they probably had to stop? I think the dyes were also probably pretty lucrative for them.
Yeah. Well, but maybe not the one that they kind of messed up.
No, but that looked better after they fixed it.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, after they fixed it, people done spent their money.
Yeah. But again, it comes to that same problem that they can't change anything because it is too big of a cash flow into their coffers.
Well, and see, the problem with the dye was they literally were taking
content from Clue
rare
people.
Reward. Mm-hmm. So that's a different kettle of fish. Like now you are kind of, instead of making,
you know what the simplest thing to do is, but it'll never happen. Well, I say simple. Just hold everything as it is right now in RS3 and do RS4.
Let's go. Let's go.
I mean, wouldn't that be an interesting idea? Finish the Desert Story arc and poll players as to, you know, hey, we're going to do another year's worth of updates for RS3, then we're going to begin on RS4. What do you guys want to see in the next year while we, you know, start on RS4 and ramp down RS3? Wouldn't that be interesting to see if the players would be accepting of that for, you know, scaling back RS3 development?
I would hope people would be excited about that, right? Like it's a fresh start. But they wouldn't be. This is RuneScape.
It's too risky. And again,
it's tradition. It's too
yeah. And again, I think Jagex is incredibly risk averse in everything that they do.
Very risk averse.
So.
Yeah, and the things, and part of that is because everything they've tried hasn't done well.
Right.
You know, I mean, it didn't come out of nowhere, which breaks my heart because the other stuff they've done, I kind of liked. You know?
Chronicle.
I liked
Chronicle.
Cool.
But Chronicle, again, they did it the wrong way. It needed to be a mobile game, not a desktop game. Yep.
No, you're right. It's just, you know, I liked Idle Adventures. I liked a lot of different.
Well, what they should have done is that they should have bought Melvor and made that part of Jagex, because that was the Idle Adventure that people were actually playing. But no, we're just going to publish it and let Melvor have his money.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So with that, then after there, we get to a point where we ask, why is Treasure Hunter so difficult to fix? And we really outlined that to this point, is that it's too big of a cash flow that you can't just turn it off without knowing how your players are going to react to a new system. Player sentiment. You don't know whether your newfangled idea is going to work. Just look what happened with Hero Pass.
Yep.
Then you get to tradition and trust. And, if we start at the top here, what is the most important thing at the end of the day for Jagex given the RS3 side of it? Old school runs primarily on subscriptions, but I'd wager at this point in time that if you look at the revenue from an RS3 player, the more revenue probably comes in from people who buy, monetization things. Hence why cash flow is important.
Well, yeah, that's why it's still here.
Yeah.
I mean...
Like, how do you change it? I don't think you can. And that's the unfortunate position that they're in. And why I think everybody's going to be disappointed after that survey, because the only way we move away from Treasure Hunter is with something more egregious.
But you can by doing what we illustrated before. We're never going to make you're never going to make the people happy that want it completely removed, because it can't be completely removed. But we could take chance out of it, or we could make it simpler.
Could make it cosmetic only.
They could, yeah. There are things. It's just not an outright. It's never going to outright go away. I don't think it's reasonable to think that is going to happen or could be a outcome of this.
Yeah, you're entirely right on that. Because if you boil it down at the end of the day, what is it, right? Like, literally, it's an interaction by the player that they pay to use outside of their 2 or 3 daily keys. And if you're looking for other ways to make money, what other better things are there than that?
That's what people want.
Oh, you mean people want the Treasure Hunter key aspect, or?
No, what you get for them. I mean, there is a market, and they just have to serve it.
Yeah.
Whether that is keys, oddments, whatever. But this is going to exist in some form. So I feel like the best use of time and energy is to advocate to make it as good as you can. Then again, I'm all about it. So, we need someone that hates it. I guess. I don't know.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. As I said, I take it or leave it. I mean, my thing was also being from a business background. I understand that they're not a charity. They need to make money to to appease the shareholders and such. So it's a necessary evil to keep the game going. That's how I've always looked at it. It's something that has to be there because they need to make money to cover overheads, to pay wages, to keep the lights on and keep development happening. It's not a game made of love like it was when it was first done in 2001.
And I don't think you can, as good as your business planning people are, I don't think you can come up with a plan to replace it that is going to work and deliver the same amount of money. I don't think you can guarantee that.
Nope.
And that becomes a key issue with this in terms of what makes it so difficult to fix. And I wish there was a way that this was highlighted when that survey came about. Because that survey, I think, put a lot of false hope into people.
Yeah. And even before then, I thought the statement even...
it's like, where did that come from? Why did you need to do that?
Yeah. Which is why I kind of alluded before that I wonder if They just haven't really been offering things that people really want to buy. And the promos haven't done all that great.
Maybe. And the question is how many people out there are like you and your friends? Because, let's fill the players in a bit on this. You've spent a good portion of money on it in the past, but you know people who have spent into the thousands in one promo, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which I think is shocking to a lot of people that such a thing can exist like that, but it happens.
Well, yeah, everybody values things different, right?
Yeah.
So,
if people have got
this is their game, this is what they play, they spend their time doing, so they don't mind this. This is it's their hobby. It's the same as if they were fishing and went and spent $1,000 on a new fishing rod or something.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. So, and yeah, I'm not as well. It's not that they're deep pocketed or anything. It's just, they're straight up
it's their outlet
people
of their budget for this kind of money.
Right.
It's their
and they don't have to worry about a family and stuff, so and that kind of thing. But even if you do, that's what I'm saying about being adults, because that's where we are all at in our lives. Like, we don't have the time. We're working our asses off in real life. And so I don't have the 6 hours a day that I might have had in college. I might have 2 hours. And if you want me to and that's the other thing. If you want people to keep playing, I got to feel like I'm getting somewhere, right? So, like, when I cut my time down on divination or whatever the skills were that I really wanted help in, because I'm on my max grind, it probably kept me playing versus doing something that I knew I hated doing and doing it day after day after day. It just goes to burnout. So,
yep. And the way people use their disposable income is their choice, if you want to spend it on a game, go for it,
So I'm going to turn that on its head for a minute. What's the expectation to max? Because I feel like we don't have that expectation to max on old school.
I never felt like it was an expectation. It was like a goal. It was like my driver, right? Like, when I first started playing RuneScape, I looked at the square of skills and I thought, I want them all to be 99, because to me that was kind of like beating the game.
Okay.
And we all know how silly that is now, but
like my farming.
This was back in the day. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. I hope we painted a picture as to why that makes Treasure Hunter so difficult to fix, because I feel like there's a lot of people who think that you can just snap your fingers and have it go away tomorrow, right, and replace with something else. But even if they did have a replacement that the business people thought would be good, I don't think you can count on it immediately. So.
Yeah, dude, I wouldn't be surprised if you took away Treasure Hunter and say that you had to make up for it with subscription.
Oh, God. I wouldn't want to see that.
You'd be doubling at least. No, you'd have to at least double the price.
At least. Yeah. Yeah. Because let's face it, like, even on a slow year, and I would say this year was slow, right? I didn't have anything really super motivating. I still probably spent at least twice. Like, you have your Premiere. I probably spent the equivalent of Premiere at least once. I'm not going to do that if my subscription is that much higher.
Right, because you're paying them a different way, and it removes that disposable income.
Yeah.
It's like asking everybody to pay a little bit more so that, certain people don't have to put up with Treasure Hunter. That's a good way of putting it.
You're in my backyard.
So I think we want to wrap this up by talking about what we hope for Treasure Hunter at the end of the day in terms of what can be done to improve it. Does anybody want to start in particular? Okay.
Yeah, take chance away.
Okay, so remove the blind chance aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, you could even have like that, foresight promo and put it in the shape of a slot machine and just do one of the three. That's it. Boom, boom. We're done here. And I think that would go a long way.
Yeah, like make that like the standard one, I guess, is what you're kind of getting at. Just add a bit of more choice to it, and the gamblish aspect.
Well, you got the choice, and you have the simplicity of not having to learn a puzzle or a new game.
Like on that same thing, I agree that simplicity is key here, and to piggyback off that, I'll go back to the ones we talked about the promos we talked about that were confusing. Just stop making us play mini games in Treasure Hunter. Really, for me, that's the biggest thing for me I want to see. Because I don't have I just don't even use the daily keys for that when those ones come up. So, I also feel like we didn't talk about cosmetics enough, but I know that removing blind chance and cosmetics would fix this for a lot of people if there was to be an offering that included that. And for that, I would say that you could even still use the same, under the hood systems and just change the way it looks and not call it Treasure Hunter, like how they, got rid of Squeal of Fortune and Yelps because it was so toxic. Treasure Hunter is honestly at that point too, probably, where it's just become a toxic thing that you can't talk about freely.
Yeah, I would, yeah, probably.
Yeah. But, in reality, if I was doing it, I would have the cosmetic items come from boxes, and then you would get the oddments as well when you open the boxes, and you would then be able to just choose whatever you'd buy in terms of lamp stars, what have you, and they'd probably need to increase the oddment rate from where they're at right now if oddments became a legitimate secondary currency, which I think their nerf this year kind of made it seem like oddments is back of the bus kind of thing with you. So
definitely,
yeah,
they're nowhere near what they used to be.
And I think the other thing that came up on this episode in discussion at points was, hey, let's just stop having Treasure Hunter be, key content pieces.
Yeah.
If you can do that, then you also, save a good amount of goodwill when people start getting, concerned about all that sort of junk.
And, speaking of the cosmetics, Shane, where are the cosmetics that, they could take the cosmetics that they would have used.
Oh my god!
With Hero Pass and Yak Track, like they made a lot of cosmetics.
Here's the thing:
why not make those
right,
and put them on Treasure
But
Hunter?
They tried that a few weeks ago. They put out a new cosmetic.
Did anyone want them?
No, because it friggin' clipped with the capes and the other stuff you were wearing.
Well,
so you buy this thing for $50.
That's a quality issue,
and it clips. No, it's an issue with the character model. That's why you got to start over with all these things.
Oh, you're kidding me, really?
Yeah, it clipped. But you would have people who would put money into this and pair it with something like a skill cape, and it looked absolutely horrendous.
Well,
how can you sell that?
They've made plenty of things that other people have wanted to buy and that I have wanted to buy.
Yes, fair.
Cosmetically.
Fair.
So it can be done.
It can be done. But and see, that's the thing. How do you sell something that is going to clip with the number one attachment people always wear, right. A skill cape or the comp cape? How do you sell that?
No, that's bad. I mean, that's... You don't. You don't sell that.
And that's actually, to bring it full circle, that's actually what got me thinking about this topic to begin with. What are the problems with Treasure Hunter? Because I see somebody at War's Retreat running around with this new cosmetic that's clipping, and lo and behold, I examine them and look at it, and oh, it's the newest thing off Treasure Hunter.
Well, no way to talk about your friend, Shane.
What?
There's no way to talk about your friend, Shane.
He wasn't my friend. He was just a random person. But that's the problem at the end of the day, isn't it? It's that they put good things out that look good on their own. But when you pair them with, 15-year-old things, they degrade to quality, and you have to really make a decision. Am I wearing the new stuff, or am I going to wear the old stuff? So, it's a big mess, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
And that's the problem.
It is. What does everybody else think about it in the audience is what I want to ask at this point.
Can we agree on this? Could we at least just take the Treasure Hunter characters and give them the squill treatment?
Well, they conspicuously
and they go into
got
a quest and
well, they conspicuously got rid of Alex, right? Or Alice.
Oh yeah, that's true. I forgot about
They
that.
just removed her from all the promos, which is fine. Which again would have been another good opportunity to brand away from Treasure Hunter, but it is what it is. So it's a very complicated subject, and I worry about Jagex's ability to put something out that will please the right segments of the RuneScape population.
Yep.
And I think we can leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Just some quick patch notes before we end here this week. Players can now use a weapon in a specific inventory slot on the Dragonkin Anvil to convert it to Masterwork melee weapon essence in a similar fashion to creating Masterwork armor essence. Good. And interesting to hear your guys' thoughts on this next one. A cosmetic override of Retro Primal armor can now be purchased from the Daemonheim rewards trader with Dungeoneering tokens, because obviously when mining and smithing came out, they updated that.
Cool. I think.
Yeah. I bought the black one, so yeah. I mean, hey, anything that gives you a use for Dungeoneering tokens, I'm going to get behind.
Right, because after 120, what use do you have for them? Or 200,
exactly.
rather. So, and you do get quite a good portion of them for doing the first 3 elite dungeons. So there's that. I did find that interesting because I know whenever they brought out new armor looks for other things like Virtus or what have you, or Pernix or whatever it was, they just gave you the old one. So it is interesting that you do need to buy this one. So.
No tokens in the hole. I looked and looked and looked. I couldn't find a one.
Pardon me?
There ain't no tokens in the hole. I looked.
I don't get that. What's that from?
The beach event hole.
The hole, the Dungeoneering hole.
Oh! I thought you were singing a song.
Your favorite Dungeoneering thing, Shane.
Right. I thought Tokens in the Hole was like a song based on like mining or something.
No, it's based on not wanting to do Dungeoneering and loving the beach for the hole. No tokens though.
Got it. Okay. And finally, the quest progression list will no longer count event quests and mini quests that are no longer available, so players can max out the number of completed quests no matter when they started their adventure. And obviously, that's referring to things like the Halloween and Easter, or soon to be Halloween, but also the Easter and Christmas quests too. So, all right. We also do have some achievements this week. We have One Chunk Man with 99 agility on September 11th. We also have Tiz Talk Rex with 120 agility also on the 11th, and then Edict of Chaos with 120 cooking on the 10th. Well done.
All right. And then we have One Chunk Man again with 99 Construction on the 10th. And Lantisex with 99 Necromancy on the 9th.
Well done.
And moving on from there to September 8th, Twisted Soul with 120 Herblore. September 7th saw The Outdoors with 120 Necromancy. And September the 5th, we have Edict with 99 Woodcutting. Congratulations, everyone.
Nicely done. Nicely done. All right. So, this week, pick of the week again. It was obviously iPhone and Apple release week, and I actually wanted to talk about something that was announced at that event, but not necessarily the phones, believe it or not. And this one, you know, I feel like these Apple's headphones have always been something that have been a mixed bag going back to when the first iPods arrived. But what we're looking at here is the AirPods 4. As well as, you know, there's also the option to purchase them with active noise canceling if that's something that you're interested in. And this is a redesigned version of the AirPods, different than the AirPods Pro. I don't necessarily know what the difference is between the two or why you would buy the Pro over these ones at this point, because I think you definitely want these ones in terms of them now providing active noise cancellation. But in addition to the new design, and working with all the Apple devices that you have, they've done something really neat with these. They can now be used as a hearing aid for people who have mild to moderate hearing loss, which is Apple, again, kicking it out of the park on accessibility-related things, which is just absolutely astounding when you think about it. The way this works is that you connect them to your iOS device, and then if you want to use it as a hearing aid, you go in there and you have the ability to take a quick little hearing test, and it can calibrate them to what your perceived amount of hearing loss is. And if you've already been to an ear doctor and they have given you a professional hearing test, you can use the numbers that came from a test at a hearing specialist and program that in to the app that's associated with these, and you can use them again for that same sort of hearing loss and as a hearing aid, which I don't think anybody was expecting here this week, and just as an accessibility item is the reason why they're pick of the week here.
It's amazing. Apple they're always on the front lines of this, and what's funny is, like, I work with a lot of people who like their hearing aids run through or connect to their phones.
Yeah.
And so this is, I mean, it's really nice. I mean, that's really cool. And I mean, a pair of Apple Pop Pros, way less than that.
Yeah. It is $179 US with active noise canceling and $129 without active noise canceling.
American.
Yeah,
American.
for about $5,000.
And there you have it. And you know what I think the most interesting thing about this is that they have also with this got FDA approval as a hearing accessibility device in the US.
Wow.
Which I don't think, again, anybody was expecting on this. So, big step forward for accessibility on that. And another thing that they do with this is that, you know, to make sure that you don't need a hearing aid, there are tools inside the app to set safe limits to ensure that you don't blast your ears out in terms of, you know, causing hearing damage for that. So, that is appreciated from Apple as well. And I mean, Tanis, what do you think the viability of this is for somebody who is, you know, right on the cusp, who could just, you know, go pick these up at the Apple store versus actually having to go get like a professional hearing aid?
Well, I mean, it's a game changer, and it's probably going to help extend people's it's going to extend that time before they probably need
a professional one.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of what I see there. It definitely fills a gap there, and of course Harrian's just like site. It's all going to depend on the condition and how bad it is, and so on and so forth. But I think it's just a real game changer. It's this is that spot, that moderate spot, where you're going to run into people that they've worked on heavy machinery, but they're not like deaf,
right?
Yet. They're no, this is. I mean, and like it's not going to solve. It's not going to be the right thing for every person with hearing loss, but I mean, this gives you an option, right? Before this, say that you were on the cusp and you're right over. Well, you need something. So you're going to have to
said $5,000 otherwise,
$5,000, yeah.
And that's I'm assuming before coverage.
Coverage? What's that?
Oh, you guys don't have coverage for these sorts of things?
No.
Oh, wow.
Not for devices like that.
All right, fair enough
Hearing
then.
aids don't go on insurance. Unless you got really damn good insurance. I don't even know what kind it would be.
Yeah. Another thing these bring over from the Pro is spatial audio with head tracking. So the idea behind it is that you can have 3D listening experiences for movies, TV shows, and games and whatnot.
Yeah, that
which
was
you used
trippy.
to only be able to get with the Pro. So, and it's interesting. I've always preferred over the ear. Like, I've never been a fan of earbuds themselves, but I feel like this is just such a more compelling price point than the Max, which is the over the ear ones that are like $700, which some people might pay for headphones, but I certainly wouldn't.
No.
And this gets you all those features and more.
You can even get the little box engraved with your name and emojis and things on it.
Of course.
And that's free. That's actually free.
Yeah. And I mean, you always used to do that going back to the iPod days, so that makes sense.
You do? I didn't know.
Yeah.
No, I've never.
Yeah, they always used to have free
idea.
engraving on iPods if you bought them online.
Cool.
Oh.
Yeah. So
this is in Australia $2.19 for the basic, and with active noise cancellation $2.99.
There's lots of people who are going to be getting these for Christmas this year.
I will actually probably invest in a set of these.
And you know what they also do is that if you have an iPad and then your Mac and your watch, it will purportedly move seamlessly between them. I know they had some issues with that in the past, but with the new chip, it might be easier for them to do such a thing like that. So, I feel like we get the new phones each and every year, and there's really nothing that amazing in them. But I felt like out of everything that was announced this week was probably, or these AirPods were probably the biggest thing that came from that event, I think, in terms of impact. So,
the worst part of this was someone sent me some Pros maybe 2-3 weeks ago as a gift. Yeah, brand new.
Oh.
So, but they're really nice. Even those are nice.
Yeah, you got to wonder if the firmware on those can do the hearing aid thing. I mean, no, not that you need that, right? You don't need that.
No. I mean, although my boss did tell me to practice selective hearing today, so.
Oh, okay. I don't know what that means.
You're married, don't you have that already?
That's what I said. I was like, dude, I am all over that. I got you.
Aye. But the other thing I was going to mention, just in terms of Apple accessibility stuff coming in iOS 18 and macOS Sequoia, is that the Apple operating systems, both iPadOS, iOS, and macOS, with this release, will be supporting native eye tracking. for people who need assistive devices in moving the mouse. So another huge Apple accessibility thing, which we'll talk about when Sequoia and whatnot arrives.
That's the thing. Apple's the company you love to hate, but I mean, the stuff
they
are
by
brilliant.
They are by far at the very front of consumer level accessibility.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, I mean, everyone hates Apple as a company, but the stuff that they bring out is just
Janice, you remember
awesome.
the Game Blast stuff with special effect, and even like 6 years ago, how expensive it was to get eye tracking.
But
for video games.
What Apple does. But Shane, that's what Apple does. Like I swear, like before we had the general built-in magnifier, the general native like built-in narrator on Windows, Mac had done it for years. But all of us PC users, because then there was a bigger gap, we all had to have special software. That software ranged between $500, $700, $800. And Apple was already, that's what they do. Like, and once they start making it like prevalent, there's no need for the other stuff. There was a big fear with that with the Apple Vision, but the Apple Vision doesn't do what.
Yeah, that needs a few more revisions for it to become
that didn't become the threat.
It's interesting. It's interesting, but it needs a few more cycles in the oven, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, Apple's always out there with accessibility stuff. It's always fun to talk about. So
they saved me a lot of money.
Oh yeah, I bet. I bet. Like I know I used to question sending you, and this is moving beyond the pick of the week, and we'll wrap the show up soon, but I always used to question sending you things with lots of text on them, sending you images with text on them, sending you images at all, until that came to iOS, where you could just have it describe the image or read whatever was on it to you, and now it's no big deal, right?
Yeah, that's
so
awesome.
But that's the pick of the week. If you, your family members, or anybody needs new headphones, AirPods, or if you need a basic hearing accessibility device, it's always something that's good to look into to see if it'll work for you. But that pretty much brings us to the end of this week's episode. We'll be back next week, of course, for Quest Week. In the meantime, if you want the podcast delivered automatically to you, the best way to get it is to subscribe. We're on all the podcast platforms out there: Apple, Spotify, Pocket Casts, and YouTube as well at youtube.com/RSBANDB. Do like and subscribe. Greatly, greatly means the world to us. But either of you have anything left before we go?
Nope.
No? Okay. Tanis, you good?
Left it all on the field, man.
Good. Well, with that being said, we'll be back next week for another episode of RSBANDB Update. See you then, everyone. Take care.
Happy speaking all.